I'm going to walk you through a practice word study using the word remembrance from Philippians 1:3. This is just a way to make sure that you've got the basics of how to use logos noun, and then you'll be able to do your own assignment on the word attitude from Philippians 2:5. But let's go through this one step at a time to make sure you understand how to do it. First of all, you're going to type the word remembrance in here, and then you need to find the Strong's number, the Greek lemma, the transliteration, and the definition from the Concise Dictionary. Let me show you how to do that in Logos. The first thing you're going to do is type Philippians 1:3 up into the box up here at the top, and that'll take you to the Bible study guides. You notice that here we are at Philippians 1:3, and here's the word remembrance. So you need to right-click on the word remembrance, and then you'll notice that there are two lemmas. This lemma, ho, is a Greek word that's like an article, like the or a. We're not really concerned about that word. We want the word remembrance. So go down and click on this lemma. That's the word that we're interested in. And then click on the word Bible Word Study. And that'll take you to all the information you need to know to study the word remembrance. Since we want to know the Concise Dictionary definition of the word remembrance, the first thing I want you to do is, if the interlinear isn't open, make sure you click on this. There's the word remembrance, and you click on that, you'll see that it comes from two Greek words. There's the word ho, which we're not going to look at, and this word, which is Strong's number 3417. So once you click on that word and right-click on it, make sure you're on the right one, and go over to your Bible Word Study, you'll notice that here is the Concise Dictionary. If you click on that, it opens up the Concise Dictionary down here in the bottom. So what you have to do is find that word, which was 3417, right here, and then copy and paste that into your Word document. The next step is to find the morphology of the word. So we'll go back to Strong's and find that. Okay, we're looking at the word remembrance, 3417, and we want to know the morphology of that word. And here we see that it's an NDSF. Now, NDSF doesn't mean much all by itself, so you need to hover your mouse over that, and it will let you know what NDSF stands for. There we go, and it stands for noun, dative, singular, feminine. So those are the words that I want you to put into your Word document. Noun, dative, singular, feminine. Sometimes, particularly for a noun, it may be important to know whether it's plural or singular, and with verbs, the mood and the voice and the tense will often mean something, so pay attention to that as you're doing your Bible word studies. The next step is to copy, paste, and resize the translation ring with the Greek lemma in the center. This is the translation ring. You'll notice there's the Greek lemma. Here's one of the common definitions of or translations of the word into English, and around the outside of the translation ring are all the ways that that lemma is translated in the New Testament in the New American Standard. If you're using another version, the words might be slightly different because the translators might have chosen different English words. But what we're interested in is the Greek word, and you'll notice that it was used 7 times in the whole New Testament. So in order to copy and paste the translation ring, put your mouse in the white area in the translation ring and right-click and copy. We're going to copy that right here into the translation ring. And you notice that when you copy it, it often comes out really large, and you may need to resize that and make it a little more usable in your document. And you can do that by just grabbing the corners and making it smaller, make it a more usable size in your document. Okay, now the next thing you want to do is state the number of times that the lemma is used in Philippians, no matter how it's translated. Now we already know how many times it was used in all passages in the New Testament, but in order to see how many times it's used in Philippians, you should have set up this filter in one of your Logos tips. Go down and just click on Philippians, and you'll see how many times the word is used in that book. In this case, it's only used 1 time, so you're going to put a number 1 into your Word document. Okay, now the next thing to do is to copy and paste the references and the entire sentence where the lemma is used in Philippians, and highlight the entire English translation of the lemma in the verses. So let's go back to Logos and do that. In order to see every place that the Greek lemma was used, you need to click on the Greek word itself, and it will open up every verse where that lemma is found. In this case, it was only found in Philippians 1:3, and it was translated as remembrance. This word up here is what tells you how the word was translated. If it happened to be translated another way, maybe even with 1, 2, or 3 words, that's what you'd see in this blue section right here, and that's the part that's the entire translation. So in this case, we want to look at Philippians 1:3, so you click on Philippians 1:3, It opens up in the box here. Now you notice that Philippians 1:3, I thank my God in all my remembrance of you, is only part of a sentence. So in order to understand the context, you should have at least the entire sentence into your word study. So I'm going to close the interlinear so we have more room, and let's find the end of the sentence. It goes all the way down through verse 3. So what we're going to do is copy Philippians 1, verses 3 to 5, and put all three of those verses into your document. Now you notice that the way it's set up makes it a little bit hard to follow. First of all, we need to add the chapter number, that it was chapter 1, verses 3 to 5. And then you can get rid of some of these extra spaces and get it set up so that it looks more like a sentence by getting rid of all of this extra stuff. That'll unclutter your chart. And sometimes when you have a lot of verses, it would take up a lot of room if you didn't clean it up like this. So that's just one way to make it work a little more clearly for you in the future. The other thing is, because we're using the NASB for all of these assignments, you don't have to footnote that it's the NASB for these assignments, because I know that's where you got it from. The next thing to do is to highlight the translation of the word, which in this case was just the word remembrance. Sometimes it's more than one word, so make sure you watch out for that. Now we're going to go down. Oh, before we go any further, if you have several verses that have the same word in it, when you put these in, make sure that you double space between the verses. And also make sure that you put them in order by verse order. Sometimes when you're in Logos, the same word will show up in several different translations. They'll be out of order in Logos. And so just put them in order. It'll make it more sense for you as you're logically thinking through how the word is used in the text. In this case, there's only one, so you don't have to bother with that. Then we want to know how many times the lemma was used by Paul in his other books, how many times other authors used the book, and how many total times it was used. So let's go back to Logos. Now remember, we had it set up for Philippians, so let's change it to Paul's other books. That's a filter that you also should have set up earlier. So we're going to go down to Paul's epistles without Philippians. Okay, we notice now that Paul actually uses this word 6 more times in several other places. So you're going to put the number 6 in your document, and then later when you're doing a full-fledged word study, you're going to do just like you did in Philippians. You'll click on the Greek word, and you'll see all the instances of how this word was used. And this would happen to be by Paul in his other books. In your other word studies, you won't have to copy all of these verses, but I am going to want you to look at them and think through the context as you read through them. And notice that this word was translated 3 different ways. So when you copy this verse, for instance, into your document, make sure that you highlight, you think kindly of us, which is you think kindly of us. Don't mark the word always. The translation is always what you see right here. Okay, so you won't have to actually copy those when you're doing the word study if it's from another book. But the same thing, you can actually click on Romans 1:9. It'll open it up here. And when you're trying to figure out how Paul might have used that word in his other books, you can read through the whole section by scrolling up and down through that and get an idea of how he used the word. Then we want to know how many times other authors use this word. So go back up to here, go to non-Pauline books, which you should have set up from a Logos tip. And you'll notice that this word is not used by any other authors. So you'll put a 0 in the box. And then you'll go back and remind yourself about how many times it was used in the entire New Testament, which would have been all passages. And that was 7. So you're going to put those numbers in right here. And the way to double check that you got the numbers right is that this number, how many times Paul used it in Philippians, how many times he used it in his other books, how many times other authors used it, should add up to this same number. That's just a way you can double check. Now for this assignment, all you really need to do is tell me how much time you spent on the assignment. There will be other things you'll do on the real word assignment next week. It helps me to see how long it took you to do the assignment. As far as my planning and explaining how things work, that's really helpful for me. So please give me that information. Let me know if you have any questions.